Picture a project manager. Maybe, maybe you know someone exactly like this, or maybe it's you.
Oh, we've all been there.
Right. They do absolutely everything by the book. They map out the whole quarter on this beautiful color-coded timeline, hard deadlines, pushing the team, and they actually hit every single milestone. The chart is entirely green.
A perfect launch. On paper, anyway.
Exactly, on paper.
Right.
But in reality, the team is just completely exhausted. Turnover is through the roof. The product itself feels, I don't know, soulless. And our managers lying awake at night wondering why they feel so hollow when they technically won.
Yeah, the hollow victory. It's a pervasive, almost invisible trap. And it really stems from a very limited definition of how human beings actually grow and learn.
Which brings us to the core mission of today's deep dive. We're going to radically rethink how we learn, how we teach, and ultimately how we function as a society.
It's a big one today.
It is. We are looking at a stack of sources from Christo Becker. Specifically, his comprehensive 2025 works, Curriculum and Flow, and some excerpts from Assessment Evolution. And right out of the gate, Becker challenges that word curriculum.
Right, because usually you hear that and you think, dust.
A dusty syllabus, a list of facts the teacher forces you to memorize.
Yeah.
Right. But Becker argues that a curriculum is actually the collective noun for life and living itself.
Your career, your relationships, your, personal growth, that is your curriculum.
Yeah. And if you've ever felt like the way we're taught to solve problems is fundamentally broken, whether you're in a boardroom or, honestly, just raising a kid, this deep dive will explain exactly why. Okay, let's unpack this. Why is our thinking so broken?
Well, the diagnosis starts with the history of our mental models. You mentioned that straight line earlier, that A to B trajectory. We really have to look at where we inherited that worldview.
It's pretty old, right?
Very old. For centuries, our institutions have been built on a foundation that views reality as linear, random, and completely separate. It's basically a hangover from Newtonian physics.
Wait, like the idea that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction?
Broadly, yeah, but more specifically, it's that strict reliance on simple cause and effect. You push the lever, the machine moves, it treats the universe like this giant predictable clock, and then...
Yeah, add Darwin to the mix.
Exactly. You combine that Newtonian clock with Darwinian survival of the fittest, or at least the societal interpretation of Darwinism. It promotes this inherent belief that life is entirely about competition, scarcity, and conflict.
Because resources are limited, so you have to conquer everyone else to secure your spot on the timeline.
Right. And because of that worldview, we've literally codified our lives into straight lines. The sources highlight a specific tool that perfectly embodies this, the Gantt chart.
Oh man, the Gantt chart. Anyone in corporate project management knows this thing intimately. It's that cascading visual timeline, right? Task 1 has to finish by Tuesday, so Task 2 can start on Wednesday?
Yes. And it treats human beings and our actual intellectual development like uniform widgets just moving down a factory assembly line.
And that assembly line mentality, that's what causes that burnt-out feeling we talked about at the start.
Precisely. Because we assume that human progress has a definitive endpoint. We treat education and personal development the same way we treat building a house.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate for a second, though. Do we actually need a linear timeline to get things done on budget and on time? I mean, if I'm managing a construction project, I need deadlines. Without them, doesn't it just become total chaos?
That is always the natural fear when we challenge linear thinking. People think, oh, we're throwing away the calendar. But Becker isn't suggesting we abandon schedules. He's pointing out the flaw in how we measure the human element within those schedules.
No.
Well, when you build a house, yes, the house is eventually finished. You hand over the keys. But the people who built the house, they are not finished. Their skills, their teamwork, their ability to problem solve those are ongoing processes.
I see.
The danger of the Gantt chart mentality is that we apply it to the human mind. We say, you passed the math test, boom, you are done with math. Becker argues we need a massive shift away from that. We need thinking that is cyclical, integrated, systematic, and actually promotes cooperation.
And that leads directly to his core theory, which he calls the universal process cycle. The text lays out this 8-step geometry that supposedly governs literally every successful action, like from brushing your teeth to building a civilization.
It sounds grand, but the steps are surprisingly intuitive. You've got define the task, plan, develop, which is getting your resources together, do, assess, reflect, learn, and character.
Let's ground this for a second because the sources use this analogy that I absolutely loved. Baking a cake.
Yes, the cake analogy is perfect for this.
If you approach baking a cake with our usual linear Gantt chart mindset, You just throw flour and eggs in a bowl, shove in the oven, and simply wait for the timer. Then you take it out, serve it, and wait for your guests to give you a grade on whether it's edible.
Which is, frankly, an incredibly stressful way to bake.
Right, you're entirely dependent on getting everything perfect on the first try. You'd end up with so many burnt cakes.
Mm.
But if you use Becker's cyclical approach, those 8 steps, it changes everything.
Walk us through it.
Well, you start by deciding what kind of cake you want. That's defining the task. You find a recipe, which is planning. You go to the store that's developing resources. Then you start mixing, which is doing. But here is the pivot. You don't just blindly wait. You taste the batter, you check the oven temperature, you adjust.
And what's fascinating here is how that completely changes the idea of assessment. In a linear world, assessment is an autopsy.
An autopsy, wow.
Yeah, it's just a judgment at the very end. You look at the burnt cake and say, well, this is bad. But in the process cycle, assessment is alive. It's continuous. The test breaks this down into 3 distinct phases.
Let's hit those phases, because this flipped my brain a bit on how we do performance reviews.
So it actually begins on the left side with diagnostic assessment. Before you even start planning, you ask, where are we? What ingredients do I already have in my pantry? What do we already know?
Makes sense.
Then, in the middle of the cycle, while you're mixing and baking, you have formative assessment. You are shaping the outcome in real time. Oh, the batter is too dry. Add some milk.
And then the end is
Summative assessment. The cake is done. But because you've been checking and adjusting all along, the final result shouldn't be a shock. It's just confirming the process.
and connecting this back to you, listening to this, whether you're managing a sales team or parenting a teenager. If you're only evaluating the final quarterly revenue or just yelling about the final report card, you aren't actually teaching or managing.
No, you're just judging.
Right. You're just waiting for someone to burn the cake and punishing them instead of helping them adjust the recipe.
Exactly. And to help us visualize why we get stuck in this trap of just judging the product, Becker arranges these 8 steps into a diamond shape.
This was a huge light bulb moment in the taxonomy. If you picture the cycle as a diamond, the right side, so, plan, develop, do, assess that side is all about quantity. It's data.
It's the tangible stuff. It's what modern culture is completely obsessed with. We love planning, we love doing the work, and we love hitting our targets.
But the left side of the diamond reflect learn, character. That side is entirely about quality, wisdom.
And ignoring that left side is incredibly dangerous. Say you launch a marketing campaign. You plan it, execute it, assess the data. It failed. If you immediately jump to planning the next campaign without pausing to reflect on why it failed, you get stuck.
Becker calls it the burnout spiral, or a repeating loop. You're doing the same thing over and over, generating tons of quantity, but the quality never improves.
To fix that, he introduces the theory of opposites. He says that every point on the cycle provides the criteria for its exact opposite point across the diamond.
Like how what you define at the top gives you the assessment criteria at the bottom.
Right. If you define the task as making a chocolate cake, your assessment is simply, is this chocolate? But the crucial one is across the horizontal axis. What you do, your actions under pressure, reveals your character.
Okay, I have to push back here. When I read this, it felt a little harsh. If we go back to the kitchen and I totally mess up the mixing, I drop the bowl, cake ruined. I failed the doing phase. Does that mean I have bad character?
No, that's a common misinterpretation. Making a technical mistake in the do phase doesn't mean your character is flawed.
Okay, good.
But your response to dropping that bowl, that relies entirely on your character, and it's what builds it. If you drop the bowl and immediately blame your partner for distracting you, or blame the oven, that's a character issue.
Right, avoiding accountability.
Yeah. But if you stop, move to the left side of the diamond, and reflect, maybe say, wow, I rushed that, I need to be more careful, you extract a learning. And that learning literally upgrades your character.
So true quality doesn't come from flawless execution. It comes from the traits you build on the left side. Humility, patience, the golden rule.
Yes. When your character grows, you bring a better, more mature version of yourself to the next diagnostic assessment when the cycle starts over.
It's easy to write off character as HR fluff, but Becker argues it's the operating system for improvement. And man, the sources make it clear we need an operating system upgrade on a societal level right now.
Oh, absolutely. The stakes are way higher than baking cakes. Becker references Jared Diamond's work on societal collapse. Diamond identified 5 areas that cause civilizations to fail.
Yeah, those are environmental damage, climate change, hostile neighbors, lost trade partners, and a society's inability to respond to its own problems.
Yeah.
And Becker says, We are basically facing a perfect storm of all 5 of these right now.
Right. And you might think, how does my personal diamond process fix global trade? It's that 5th trigger, the inability to respond. If everyone in the society only thinks in linear Gantt charts, they freeze when a complex crisis disrupts their straight line.
Which brings us to the 4 A's. Becker's solution is that education and living have to prepare us to be aware, anticipatory, accountable, and adaptable.
Traditional education fails at this because it focuses on what to think. Memorize this, pass that test. It doesn't teach us how to think dynamically.
I thought of a modern navigation app like Google Maps to explain this. When you open the app, you don't just type in the destination and hit the gas.
Yeah.
It pings your GPS to see where you currently are. It's aware. That's your diagnostic.
Yes.
Then as you drive, it's anticipatory. It's looking miles ahead for traffic.
Meanwhile, you're the driver, so you remain accountable.
Exactly. And when a tree falls across the road, blocking your straight line, you have to be adaptable. The app recalculates. You don't just sit in the car crying that your life is over. You cycle through the new data and find a route.
But if we raise people who panic the second their straight line is blocked, society loses all its resilience.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Becker scales this up. He applies the diamond to human evolution across 4 colored stages.
This is a massive paradigm shift. Let's break down those stages. It starts with the red diamond, which he calls the athlete.
So, learning physical limits, rules, fundamental knowledge.
Right, like a toddler learning to walk or someone learning the literal mechanics of a job. Once we master that, we move into the gray diamond, the warrior.
Ah, the warrior, driven by ego, competition, material achievement.
This is where that Darwinian zero-sum game lives. You climb the hierarchy, you defeat rivals. But Becker notes that the warrior almost always turns into the worrier.
The worrier. Because if your whole identity is your status on a hierarchy, you live in perpetual anxiety about losing what you've conquered.
And Becker points out that our modern global society is currently stuck in this gray diamond. We're obsessed with hierarchy and infinite growth on a finite planet. It's an exhausting eat or be eaten mentality.
So how do we evolve past it?
By fully implementing the universal process cycle, engaging that left side. Reflection and character shift society from the gray diamond to the green diamond, the statesperson.
Taming the ego. Focusing on service and gratitude. And the sources anchor this in real economics, citing C.K. Prahalad's work.
Yes. If society moves to the green diamond, governance moves from a hierarchy to a heterarchy.
We should define heterarchy.
Right.
A traditional monopoly is a gray hierarchy. Power is centralized at the top.
But a green heterarchy is like a decentralized power grid or open source software. Leadership shifts based on who has the expertise in that moment. It replaces domination with mutual cooperation.
It's the shift from eat or be eaten to we all eat together. And then for those who really push the boundaries, there's the blue diamond, the spirit or divine.
The highest consciousness, transcending the ego's friction entirely, operating on pure awareness and intuition.
Wow. We have covered so much ground today. We ditched the linear Gantt chart for the cyclical process cycle. We balanced the quantity of the right side with the character building of the left side.
And we use the 4 A's to see how we can evolve from an anxious warrior society to a service-oriented statesperson society.
So, for you listening, here is the takeaway. You are a diamond in the making. Next time you face a failure, don't just judge the final product. Step off the straight line, move to the left side of the cycle, reflect, learn, and let it build your character.
And I'll leave you with one final provocative thought from Becker's interlude on futures literacy.
Oh, I love this part.
In traditional linear thinking, we use assessment like a rearview mirror. We look backward to confirm if learning happened. But what if we used assessment as a compass?
A compass.
When reflection meets anticipation, assessment stops being a record of the past and becomes a tool to design the future. So the question for you is, are you just tracking your past mistakes, or are you actively using them to rehearse the future you want to build?
That's a profound shift. We usually think of a curriculum as this boring list of school subjects, but Becker shows that your curriculum is actually your life. It's not a straight line rushing toward a cliff. It's a continuous adaptable cycle. So taste the batter, check the oven, and keep learning. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.